Hello, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, where our mantra is educate, enlighten, and entertain. Passionate World Talk Radio is a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. The views of the guest may not represent those of the host of the station. Folks, I have a very interesting guest with me today. I love the fact that I get to meet and talk to people from all walks of life, from all over the world. And with me today is David Alfaro Serrano, who is from Peru and grew up in other countries in South America. He relocated to the U.S. in 2013, where he received PhD in economics. And he is also cultivating the art of storytelling. He is part of a group called Tales from the Six, which go around different theaters locally in New York to share their storytelling. And David Alfaro Serrano likes to be called David. So I want to welcome you, David, to Chatting with Betsy.
Oh, thank you so much, Betsy. I'm very glad to be here.
Oh, I'm glad to have you here. I have to ask you, because people will probably be very interested, what made you decide to take economics? First of all, I have to ask you that because I'm nosy.
Oh, I see. Actually, it's kind of like an anticlimactic thing. When I was in high school, I enjoyed a lot of like math and math-related fields, but also enjoyed like history or debating and those kind of things. So at some point when I was applying to college, I thought, what is in between these two things? A massive thing with some politics on it, and economics seemed like the middle point between those two things. So that's why I decided to study this.
And I have to ask you this, because I always wonder this myself. So if I am wondering, I just take it for granted my audience might be wondering, what exactly does an economist do? Oh, I have trouble saying that word.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Well, economics is a very broad discipline. So basically, at its core is about trying to understand individuals' behavior from the perspective of, the assignment of resources, limited resources to larger needs, some would say infinite needs or infinite desires. So how people allocate those resources to those needs, which is, a very broad description. So there are sub-branches. Some of them, for example, are about how companies allocate resources. Other branches are about how households do it. Other branches are about how psychological biases affect those decisions and so on. But the connecting theme is the idea of a person or maybe a firm allocating resources to its goals. That's kind of like what economists, broadly speaking, study. And we use a lot of
That's interesting.
Statistics, math to understand that process. That's what we do.
Yeah, well, math was never one of my strong subjects, that's for sure. But I always admired people who are great, in math. It always, it fascinated me because, we hear a lot about the economy now and people struggling because food prices have gone up so high. So I was just curious about the field of economics. It's interesting that you have a PhD in economics and you got into storytelling. How did you get interested in storytelling and to join a storytelling group?
Yeah, well, these things have been kind of like in parallel in my life, my studies and my career. I am an economist and I've been doing this since I was 18, studying or working. But in parallel, I had always had this taste for the creative activities, for the scenic arts, for that kind of thing. And since I was in college, in addition to my regular, coursework, I took like theater classes and that kind of thing. And when I moved to the States, I was at that point I was living in Argentina. I moved to the States, and part of settling myself in this new country was trying to find some, a place or space where I could engage again with these creative activities, and I learned about storytelling. So, in 2013, I was living in Washington, D.C., and I went to this cultural center that was offering some classes in storytelling. And Betsy, it was a disaster. I felt extremely uncomfortable because I had just arrived to the country and I didn't have a good command of the language. And storytelling, of course, is something that requires you to be able to write or to speak with, certain level of fluency in English. And I couldn't do it, and it was too difficult, and I dropped it. Like I decided to do other things and leave storytelling, for some other moment. And then I lived in DC, came to New York, did my PhD, did other creative activities such as improv theater, and then during the pandemic in 2020, I could not do improv theater anymore because the things were closed, and I received an invitation to take a class of storytelling on Zoom. And that was one of the few, things that I could find to entertain myself and to do creative things while, going through the pandemic. So I joined this storytelling online class in 2020, 7 years after my first attempt. And by that point, I had already, become better at speaking and writing in English. So I felt that now was the moment. So in 2020, I re-engaged with storytelling.
Storytelling is so important. As a matter of fact, I find it cathartic for myself to be able to share stories of my own and my own experiences. And I when I was a little girl, I always loved to hear my grandmother's stories of her coming from Europe, fleeing for her life to come to the United States. And these stories will forever remain in my my mind and my heart. When you do the storytelling, is it like spontaneous, or do you have a story already in your head that you want to share, or do you just go up there and think of something, spur of the moment?
I see. No. Different storytellers approach this in a different way. And I feel more comfortable when I have something, prepared. At least a sketch. So to create a story, I usually, I work before the presentation, try to identify what is the event I want to talk about, and then, create the story, sketch the story in paper. What are the elements I want to mention, I want to discuss, and then I practice a bit, and then I present. No, I usually put thought on the stories before. I don't feel comfortable just improvising these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would want to be prepared too. Yes, I think I would be more prepared. I mean, I would be more comfortable if I was going on stage to have something prepared, because I think it takes a lot of guts it takes a lot of courage for someone to go up on a stage in front of a live audience to tell a story or to be a comedian, to sing, to perform. That's really very, I admire people who do that.
It is challenging, and also I think part of why I like storytelling, when you are learning English as a second language, as I did. I remember when I was learning the language in school, I had a teacher that used this technique called like intensive listening, I think it's called, which is basically you listen to, let's say, the scene of a sitcom or a piece of a song, and you have this piece of paper, and the idea is that you listen to it and then you write it down. This is like to force yourself to understand the words, and then you do a pass, you catch some words but miss others, then you play it again and play it again and play it again until you get it, and you get most of the words in paper. And storytelling is like intensive remembering, because we all, if I force you or someone push and say, okay, what is a significant event in your life that you think is like worth sharing? Most of us would be able to come out with, one sentence. Oh, when this happened, when that happened. But then the question is, okay, now why is that important? What happened before? In which moment of your life you were? Why is that you remember that? And what happened afterwards? This pre and post situation, that is not something that, at least for me, it doesn't come so easy to my mind. I need to put effort, and time and think on why I remember certain events as significant. It requires some digging. And I don't think I would be able to do that on the spot during a presentation or during a performance. That is something that for me requires some introspection. So yeah, that's in part also why I think I feel more comfortable preparing in advance, because I need some time to do that reflection on the event.
That's very understandable. What are your stories about? I'm sure you probably talk about different topics, but do you talk about growing up in South America, your trip over to America and your adjustment, or I guess you talk about from your own experiences?
Yeah, the type of storytelling I do is called personal storytelling. It's always stories of your own life. We all have these significant events in our life, and the idea is telling other people what happened to you, what were these significant things, these significant transformations, sharing that. And in my case, I have written different stories about different events, but if I had to think of what the connecting thing is, and that's actually a good question. I think until now, at least, I have explored the idea of it's breaking the monotonicity of daily life. That I think is a topic that kind of crosses across my stories. I have been a very career focused, study focused person most of my life, and that has paid off significantly for me. I have achieved many things, but one of the things that kind of life sometimes becomes a bit like monotonous and repetitive. It's very disciplined in some way. And a lot of like significant things that I have that I like to put in stories have to do with trying to break out of that, trying to seek exposure to emotions, to intense emotions, or to do something that others wouldn't think you would do, or let yourself feel something that you normally would have been more cautious about. So yeah, like I would say a good part of my stories and those the stories I like the most have to do with that, with finding yourself myself in situations in which I allow myself to feel or to do something that I usually wouldn't allow myself to do. Yeah, those pushes, to break from the monotony, to deviate for the pre-assigned path, for the prescribed path. I think that's kind of, I would say, the main idea I usually toy with in my story. I like it.
I think people, when we share stories, we don't realize that we're helping people, because people can connect to someone's story, and someone in the audience might say, "Oh wow, David experienced this. He's sharing it. That happened to me too. I'm not the only one." And then we kind of, I think, bond, on a human level when we do storytelling, because we're sharing our experiences and we're letting people know, you know what, you're not the only one who went through this. I went through it too, and I survived.
That's actually very, very true, because, like, we usually, like storytelling, a lot of people do storytelling. There's the famous people, but there's also a lot of people like me that do it, as a hobby, as something that we enjoy. And what is surprising is that, if anyone, sits and brings all those significant memories and they start doing this digging, most people have very significant stories to share, and many people can relate to those stories because they are like common occurrences, common struggles, and sometimes sometimes we do this mistake of thinking of these struggles or experiences or situations as something very minor, and who cares, this is just a minor thing. It's not like a epic story, it's just the regular life. But if you pay attention to those common occurrences, to those things that happen to everyone in life, they are significant. There is a story to tell about them, and I think that's very significant, that we all have these stories, that if we pay attention to them, we can see all these elements that are really worth telling, and that other people can relate to. Yeah.
Yes. I think that, well, even back in the old days, in the Appalachia area of the U.S., their music was actually created from storytelling. They would tell stories and put it to music. And that was very interesting, when I would hear about the history of the Appalachian music, and how they told those stories through music. And, some people's music is really a story that they wrote about an experience. So they put it to music instead of just, going up and telling a story, which I find fascinating too, because anyone who could write a song, put it to music, that hasn't been used before, to me, is creative genius.
Oh yeah.
I find that really amazing. What advice would you have for someone, David, in starting out in storytelling, of what they should do?
That's a very good question. I think the first practical advice is take a quick course on storytelling, a workshop on storytelling, and not because there is a lot to learn, but I'm not suggesting it because of that. I'm suggesting it because that will put you in contact with other people that is interested in this. This type of art form is meant to be shared, and the storyteller only can grow if other people, if at least other people is paying attention and reacting to it, and you see the reactions. So yeah, you can only grow on this, I think, through the sharing. And for that, it's important to find a community to share with. So participating in a workshop is a very good idea. If people have access, going to storytelling shows, but not necessarily to the big name storytellers, but also going to these small venues that in many cities there are. Like I live in New York, so here there is a lot of that. Small venues, small theaters, where random people like me just go to these open mics and take the stage and tell a story, and you can just listen to that and see how they do it, how they do that, or just by sharing your stories with others and listening to others' stories. I think that's the way to start. Get a community. If someone wants to do storytelling, I think it's important to get into a community, with other people that is also interested in sharing and listening and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's good advice, because we of course learn from other people, and I think I just thought of this, David. It kind of reminds me like the storytelling community, and being in a community like that. You go into different theaters. This might sound kind of wacky, but what it reminds me of is back in the 50s and 60s when folk music was coming around, and the folk singers, like in the village way back when, would congregate, and they would do their, play their music, but it was, storytelling, and it had to do with politics, and it was just all different stories as the folk music was becoming popular, but they did have their own community. And so did the poets, like the beatniks. They had their own community, like way back in the day, even before maybe my time. But I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I remember hearing about, the beatniks and the folk singers, and they were very prominent in the village in New York. It's very popular for that. Is that still so? Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Like for all the art, in general in life, I would say, but in particular in the arts, and very in particular in storytelling, all these things require a community of shared interest. Not only for the practical reason that you need to tell your story to someone to practice it, but also because, being with people that is interested in the same thing, and then like vibrate, put the effort, they want to do it, it's like this community of interest, that really helps. That really helps, makes it more enjoyable, give you a purpose. You can write the story on your own, but if you don't have a venue and a day to say your story, to tell your story to others, that really, without a deadline, without people who is willing to listen to you and to give you tips and to enjoy, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And it really helps. And now, for example, I have this. I am part of Tales of the Six, which is this storytelling group I perform with. And it's great. No, it's great to have these people that you meet often, and you go to these presentations together. That really makes it more enjoyable and easier. No? And easier, gives you more willingness to work on it.
Yes, and you could grow together, as a group and bounce ideas and get constructive, criticism, get advice, get some wisdom as to, how you can improve. And that's how you learn from each other. When you do the storytelling, David, the audience, how is the audience?
Mm-hmm.
Are they, I would think that they're there to hear stories. Does the audience, are they receptive? Or, did you ever get heckled? Do they heckle at these theaters where people do storytelling? Like you hear comedians getting heckled. Do they heckle storytellers?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a great question. I think, it really depends, to be honest. There are, when you do the storytelling, you're putting something very vulnerable yourself out there. And sometimes people engage with that. And you see how people say, oh, wow, yeah, that's important. That also happened to me, or I recognize these emotions in what you're saying. But other times, it just doesn't work. It's like any performance art. Like sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you see how the people is like, okay, like this happened, so what? Like, you are not able to convey the point. That has also happened to me in these venues that I perform or that I have performed. Usually people is very supportive. Like people is usually, they are willing to engage. They, move their heads. Oh yes, like it's clear. Sometimes you feel that they are engaged most of the time, but sometimes it doesn't. That's fine. You cannot engage. You cannot be successful at engaging people in every instant. But yeah, in my experience, that most of the time, the people who attend these shows are very supportive and they wanna, participate and engage with the storyteller. Yeah, I haven't had experience with a bad crowd, that actively shows that they don't care. No, that has never happened to me. I think that happens more to people who do comedic storytellers, like stand-up comedians. But that's because I think comedy is a more difficult thing to do. Because,
right, yeah.
In personal storytelling, we all have a lived experience. And, what happens to one person is not a radical different to what may happen to another person. We all go through, to some extent, similar struggles. Things happen. And it's easier to relate. But comedy, not necessarily. I think comedy is a more difficult thing. When I see comedians or, emerging comedians or people who want to become a comedian in the open mics, that's a more difficult thing. Sometimes
that's
out. I don't want to be in that position. That's a difficult ask.
Yes, I would think so. I mean, I would. Just to tell a story in front of a live audience would give me severe stage fright. But I think that, the more someone does something, the more comfortable you get performing in front of an audience. But it does take a certain amount of courage, a certain personality, I think, to go on stage. I think that that it's great to have the Tales from the Six and be in the group where you have support and you learn from each other. Now, David, do the Tales from the Six, you go to local theaters? Is it just around New York City and the boroughs, or do you go out of state?
Well, for now we are doing we all live in, the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area, and we have performative now in the city, in open mics, or we have been featured at Magnet Theater or in Stark Reality, which is an open mic in New York, and we haven't gone out of the city yet. But, who knows? As we grow, we may start performing in nearby cities. But for now, we do New York theaters and open mics.
Well, when you become famous, I could say I interviewed you on my show.
You are betting, like interviewing all the emerging people, the people that do hobbies, and then some of them. I actually. That's an interesting thing. Like, I don't imagine, maybe someday I'll be known storyteller, but I'm very happy to have it be like this. Something I can share. I can go to theaters and I can feel the thrill of going into the stage. In fact, now I'm thinking of it, storytelling is one of these ways in which I can try to break the monotony, right? It's like going to this abnormal situation of being on a stage, of saying something that is like very vulnerable. You were saying like, it requires certain personality and it becomes easier. Yeah, it's true that it becomes easier, it requires certain personality. But I think part of the payoff of doing this is that adrenaline rush. Is that moment in which you are like next to the stage and they are about to say, okay, and now the next storyteller is David Alfaro. And that moment when you listen to your name being called and then, okay, there's no going back. I have to go here and do the thing and be vulnerable and be exposed, my image, because people record, right? So it's my image is being exposed. Now, this will be out there, and in the current times, once you do something in public, it will never disappear. It's like, oh my God, I'm doing this. That moment of jumping, I think that's the best moment of any performance, I would say. It's even better than the fact of doing it, the act of doing it. It's that instant before when you have to jump. There's no return. I think that's right. That's the best, the most rewarding part for me. So I hope it never gets that easy. Because if it became too easy, too second nature, I would lose part of the payoff of doing it. So yeah,
yes,
hopefully it won't become that easy.
I would imagine you get, like any performer gets like a sense of adrenaline high in their body.
Yeah.
Like, like, wow, I did this. I did this story I did in front of, people. I know my own personal experience. Whenever I record a show, I do get stage fright, even though I'm not looking at anybody. I get nervous before I record a show. I'll be honest with you and everyone else that's listening. I do. I get stage fright. And if I'm on someone else's show and it's video, I'm very self-conscious. But yet, it's a thrill to me. Like, I get pumped. I get very pumped up doing my show or doing someone else's show. So I could definitely, I understand that. There's like a satisfaction that you must have in telling a story and knowing that people can relate to it and, it could help someone. I always say we never know who's listening, how far our ripples go. We just don't know. You don't. You really don't know. Do you get feedback, David, from the audience? Does anyone come up to you afterwards and say, oh, that's really great, or it wasn't, or I related?
Yeah, in terms of the six, not every storytelling group does this, but in terms of the six, we sometimes have like a formal like Q&A question at the end. But even in cases in which one doesn't have that, it has happened to me, like audience members come after and, from, hey, that's great show, to something a bit more like, that is the story resonates to me. Yeah. The audience usually gives feedback afterward. People approach you or tells you, oh yeah, something like that happened to me, or I became very emotional listening to you. Yeah. People usually engage. That is, I think, the advantage of these, of performing in small places, small theaters, small venues, is that people can easily approach you at the end. Even while you are performing, you are at close distance with the people. And I think that creates certain intimacy, certain proximity that I would imagine. I've never performed in a big theater, but I would imagine that is something that maybe is a bit lost in a big venue.
I hope that one day you all from Tales from the Six will come to New Jersey in a place that's close to me, so I could go see you. I'll give you a couple of suggestions. Carteret Performing Arts, Carteret, New Jersey, and there's the Avenel Performing Arts. Those two are close to me. I would love to see Tales from the Six perform in one of those places, because that I could drive to.
That would be great. It would be increasing our reach also. Yeah, for sure. We should put it in our growth agenda.
I'll have to tell that to suggest that to Sherry.
Yeah, Sherry. You also have interviewed Sherry. Yeah, she also.
Yeah.
She's the founder of the group. She's great.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, I just interviewed Sherry Rosen last week, but the show's not posted yet. Probably won't be until next month, but I'll have to send her an email and make those two suggestions, because I can't go into New York City. I would get lost, and especially at night, forget it. Or even during the day.
Definitely try to go further. And in fact, related to what we were talking before, the importance of community. That's how I met Sherry. Like this could complement what I said before. That's how we met Sherry. In one of these storytelling workshops, she was there and we met, and now we do this with the group. The importance of meeting the people that vibrate with you, that enjoy the same passion with you. So yeah, and also we go wherever Sherry says. So if Sherry is on board with going to New Jersey, we will go to New Jersey.
I'll have to tell Sherry to check out those two places.
Definitely.
I so enjoyed talking to you, David. What a pleasure. I think you're a fine young man. You have a whole future ahead of you, and when you become famous, I want you to think of me. And
well, you are very famous at this point, so thank you for having me in your show.
Oh, you are welcome. Oh, famous? I don't know if I'm famous, but the show, Passion World Talk Radio, is heard in over 170 countries. So
so this is the highest reach my work has
high reach.
So thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, you are welcome. It's my pleasure. David, is there a way that folks could get in touch with you or connect with you on social media?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to say that I'm not a very good person in social media, but given these storytelling adventures that I'm having, I created an Instagram account. So like people who want to get in touch can get in touch through my Instagram account, which is it's literally me David. That's hello.
Hi. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, that's my
Mhm.
Instagram account. It's me, David, and there anyone can find me, and I will be posting announcement for future shows that Tales of the Six will be doing, and try to let people know what we are at.
Oh, very good. I will definitely connect with you, David, on Instagram. I still can't figure out Instagram, but I know how to connect to people.
That's
I
like,
know how to do that.
but it took me, I created this account explicitly because of these storytelling activities, and last time I used Facebook was, I don't know, early 2020, and then someone told me that you should create an Instagram, so I created an Instagram, and I feel, I don't know, something happened. It's hard. It has so many options. I remember that Facebook was very simple. You just went in, put pictures, there were pictures from people, and that was it. But now Instagram has so many options and so many things going on that, yeah, it has a learning curve, actually.
Yeah, can you young kids? And I could call you a young kid because you're younger than my son.
Apparently, I'm not very young anymore. That's a realization that I had. Oh my God. Now I'm telling stories of my life and kind of use social media. Oh, why? What happened? When did this happen? I was so young and so recently.
Yeah, it goes by quick. Well, I know you're in your 30s. You're younger than my son, so to me, you're a kid.
Oh, well,
but,
thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. But you're a fine young man, and thank you for coming on, chatting with Betsy. I wish you the best of luck in your future, and I hope one day to see you all in person, see you all perform, and eventually, I think Sherry said that Tales from the Six will have a YouTube channel in the near future.
Yes, we are setting it up, and it will be up and running. In fact, it's in my to-do list, so this is on me. I'm not going to share it. It's on me. I will create the YouTube channel, and so we as a group can have a place.
So I would love to
information shows.
Yes, I would love to see Tales from the Six on the YouTube channel, so I could watch you all tell your stories. I would love that. But I thank you again. You heard David Alfaro Serrano on Chatting with Betsy. All the information about David will be in the blog that Jeannie White, the station manager, writes, and Jeannie produces the show. So thank you, Jeannie, for all you do. And thank you to Lillian Caldwell, CEO of Passion World Talk Radio, who makes this all possible. And thank you to you all for listening, subscribing. If you don't already subscribe to Chatting with Betsy, it is for free on Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, to name just a few. Excuse me. And please subscribe because I have phenomenal guests from all walks of life to be an inspiration to you all and to help you all. And I get inspired by every guest. I learn from every guest that comes on Chatting with Betsy. And if you want to follow me, I am on Facebook, Betsy E. Wurzel, Wurzel. And I have a support group, #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement, if you are a caregiver and looking for a support group. And as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, please be kind and shine your light bright because we need it. We need it now more than ever to shine our light and to be kind. And if you have a story that you want to share, if you want to come on this show, Chatting with Betsy, and share your story, let me know. My email is in the blog. So you can connect with me through Passionate World Talk Radio. All the information is in the blog. So make sure that you do read that. And thank you, everyone, again. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, which is a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Until we chat again, be safe, everyone. Bye-bye now.